The spoon hovered exactly 3 inches from his mouth. A heavy silence instantly crushed the chatter in the busy diner. It wasn't because he was Gabriel Stone, the man who controlled half the city's underworld with a ruthless iron fist. It wasn't because of the Glock tucked beneath his tailored suit. It was because a 5-year-old girl with messy pigtails had just slammed her hands on his table and screamed at the top of her lungs. "Don't eat that." Gabriel froze. His dark eyes shifted from the trembling waitress to the tiny child. He didn't know it yet, but that shout hadn't just saved his life. It was about to burn his entire empire to the ground and force him to protect the only 2 witnesses who could identify the traitor in his midst. The diner was called Sal's, a relic of the 1950s that smelled of grease, burnt coffee, and old vinyl. It was neutral ground, or at least it was supposed to be. Gabriel Stone hated it. He hated the flickering neon sign outside that buzzed like a dying fly, and he hated the way the linoleum stuck to the soles of his Italian leather shoes. But his grandfather had eaten here every Tuesday, and Gabriel, a creature of dangerous habits, kept the tradition alive. It was a power move. It told his enemies, "I am so untouchable. I can eat tomato bisque in a roadside dive without a bodyguard breathing down my neck." Today, however, his head was pounding. The merger with the Eastern Syndicate was stalling, and his second-in-command, Rocco, had been acting skittish all morning. Gabriel sat in the corner booth, his back to the wall, scanning the room. A young woman in a faded pink uniform was wiping down the counter. She looked exhausted. Her name tag read Amelia. She had dark circles under her eyes that spoke of double shifts and sleepless nights. Sitting on a stool near the kitchen door was a little girl, coloring in a book. Her daughter, obviously. Same chestnut hair, same wary eyes. The order arrived. A bowl of tomato bisque, steaming hot. Gabriel picked up his spoon. He blew on the soup, the red liquid swirling. He was tired. He just wanted to eat and get back to the war room. He lowered the spoon. "Don't eat that!" The scream was shrill, piercing through the clatter of silverware and low conversation. Gabriel stopped. His hand didn't shake. It never did. But his eyes narrowed. The little girl, who had been coloring moments ago, was now standing right beside his booth. She was tiny, barely tall enough to see over the table edge, wearing a t-shirt that was 2 sizes too big. The diner went dead silent. Amelia dropped the rag she was holding, her face drained of all color. She rushed forward, grabbing the girl's arm, her voice trembling with terrified panic. "Chloe! Oh my God, I am so sorry, sir. She has an imagination. Please forgive us." Amelia tried to pull the girl back, her grip tight, her eyes wide with the kind of fear people have when they know exactly who Gabriel Stone is. But the girl, Chloe, dug her heels in. She pointed a small, ink-stained finger at the bowl. "The bad man put the blue stuff in it," Chloe said. Her voice wasn't loud anymore. It was a factual whisper. "I saw him. Through the flappy door." Gabriel didn't look at the mother. He looked at the child. "The flappy door?" "The kitchen door," Chloe said. "The man with the snake on his neck. He put blue drops in your soup when Benny wasn't looking." The air in the booth dropped 20 degrees. Gabriel slowly placed the spoon back into the bowl. He looked up at Amelia. She was shaking so hard her teeth were almost chattering. I didn't see anything," she stammered, pulling Chloe behind her legs. "Please, just go. We didn't see anything." "Snake on his neck," Gabriel repeated, his voice low, like grinding gravel. He knew every man in his organization. He knew every rival. And he knew that Victor Cray, a low-level enforcer for a rival family, had a cobra tattoo winding up his jugular. Gabriel reached into his jacket pocket. Amelia flinched, shielding her daughter, expecting a gun. Instead, Gabriel pulled out a pristine white handkerchief. He dipped the corner of it into the soup. The red liquid soaked into the white fabric. Within seconds, the edges of the stain turned a sickly, frothing violet. Cyanide mixed with an anticoagulant. A messy, painful way to die. Gabriel stood up. He was 6'4", a tower of black wool and muscle. He looked at the kitchen door, the flappy door. It was swinging slightly. The back exit. He looked down at Amelia. She was terrified, clutching Chloe so tight her knuckles were white. "Did you see him too?" Gabriel asked. "No," Amelia lied. Tears were welling in her eyes. "Please, I just want to work. I have rent." "You have a daughter who just saved my life," Gabriel corrected. "And if Snake Neck knows she saw him, you won't be paying rent. You'll be dead by sunset." He threw a $100 bill on the table, not for the meal, but for the damage he was about to cause. "Grab your purse," Gabriel commanded, unbuttoning his suit jacket to reveal the shoulder holster. "You're coming with me." "I'm not going anywhere with you," Amelia hissed, backing away. The protective instinct overrode her fear of the Mafia Don standing before her. "I know who you are. You're Stone. People get in cars with you, and they don't come back." "And if you stay here," Gabriel said, scanning the windows, "Cray will come back to finish the job. He failed to kill me. He can't leave witnesses, especially a loud 5-year-old. As if on cue, the front window of the diner shattered. Crack. A bullet whizzed past Gabriel's ear and buried itself in the booth's upholstery, right where his head had been seconds ago. "Down!" Gabriel roared. He didn't wait for permission. He grabbed Amelia by the arm and shoved her beneath the table, sweeping Chloe into his other arm like she weighed nothing. "Move!" The diner erupted into chaos. Customers screamed and dove for cover. Gabriel drew his weapon, a custom Sig Sauer, and fired 2 shots through the broken window, forcing the sniper outside to duck. "The back!" Gabriel growled to Amelia. "Go out the kitchen, now!" Amelia scrambled, crawling on her hands and knees, dragging her purse. Chloe was crying now, a high-pitched sound that grated on Gabriel's nerves, but oddly, it fueled his rage rather than distracted him. Someone had tried to kill him in front of a child. That was a violation of the old codes. They burst into the kitchen. Benny, the cook, was cowering behind the grill. "I didn't know!" Benny screamed, hands up. "I went to the freezer. He was just there." Gabriel didn't pause. He kicked the back door open. An alleyway, grey, wet, and narrow. His black SUV was parked at the end of the block, but between them and the car stood 2 men. Both were wearing heavy coats, hands deep in their pockets. "Stay behind me," Gabriel ordered Amelia. He walked forward, calm, lethal. The 2 men pulled guns. Gabriel was faster. He fired twice, clean, precise shots. 1 man dropped, clutching his leg. The other scrambled for cover behind a dumpster. Gabriel reached his SUV and yanked the back door open. "Get in! Floorboard! Keep her head down!" Amelia threw Chloe in and scrambled after her. Gabriel dove into the driver's seat, bypassing his driver, who was currently slumped against the steering wheel, unconscious or dead. Gabriel didn't have time to check. He shoved the driver's body to the passenger side, keyed the ignition, and slammed the accelerator. The engine roared, a V8 beast coming to life. Tires screeched as he peeled out of the alley, clipping the side of a dumpster. They sped onto the main avenue, weaving through Chicago traffic at 80 miles an hour. Gabriel checked the rearview mirror. A black sedan was following them. "Mummy?" Chloe's voice came from the floorboard. "Is the bad man coming?" "No, baby, no," Amelia sobbed, stroking the girl's hair. Gabriel's knuckles were white on the steering wheel. He pressed a button on the dashboard phone. "Mateo, code red. Secure the penthouse. I'm coming in hot. I have packages." "Packages, boss." Mateo's voice crackled over the speaker. 2 civilians, Gabriel said, his eyes flicking to the rearview mirror where the sedan was gaining. And get the doctor. I think my driver is dead. He took a sharp right, drifting the heavy SUV around a corner, the tires smoking. He looked back at the woman, huddled on the floor of his car. "What's your last name?" he shouted over the engine noise. "Bennett," she yelled back. "Amelia Bennett." "Well, Amelia Bennett," Gabriel said, watching the black sedan spin out and hit a lamppost behind them. "Welcome to the family. You just became the most expensive liability I own." The penthouse wasn't just an apartment. It was a fortress in the sky. Located on the top floor of the stone tower, it had bulletproof glass, a private elevator, and enough security personnel to invade a small country. When the elevator doors opened, Amelia held Chloe so tight she was practically cutting off the girl's circulation. They stepped into a foyer made of black marble and gold. It was cold, sterile, and breathtakingly expensive. Matteo, Gabriel's oldest friend and advisor, was waiting. He was an older man with silver hair and a face carved from granite. He looked at Gabriel, then at the waitress in the stained pink uniform, and finally at the little girl clutching a coloring book like a shield. "Gabriel," Matteo said, his voice flat. "You went for soup and came back with the family." "They tried to poison the bisque," Gabriel said, stripping off his suit jacket and tossing it onto a leather chair. He walked to the bar and poured a glass of scotch, his hand finally trembling slightly as the adrenaline faded. "Cyanide. The girl saw Cray in the kitchen." Matteo's eyes widened. "Cray? Here? In our territory?" "Someone let him in," Gabriel said darkly. He took a long drink. "Someone told him I'd be at Sal's at 1 p.m. Only 3 people knew that schedule." The implication hung in the air like smoke. A traitor. Someone close. Amelia stepped forward. She looked out of place, a splash of poverty in a room of immense wealth. "Look, Mr. Stone, thank you for getting us out. But we need to go home. My shift wasn't over. Your manager is probably talking to the cops right now," Gabriel said, turning to face her. "And if you go back to your apartment, you'll be dead before you unlock the door. Cray saw your face. He knows the girl identified him." "So what?" Amelia's voice rose, fueled by exhaustion. "We just live here now, with you. You're a criminal. I see you on the news." "I am a businessman," Gabriel said smoothly, though the edge in his voice was sharp. "And yes, you live here now. Until I find Cray and whoever sold me out, you are my guests." "Prisoners," Amelia corrected. "Guests who are alive," Gabriel countered. He knelt down, bringing himself to eye level with Chloe. The little girl flinched, hiding behind her mother's leg. Gabriel paused. He wasn't good with children. He wasn't good with people, generally. But children were a foreign species. He tried to soften his expression, but his face was made for intimidation, not comfort. "You like coloring?" Gabriel asked, gesturing to the book she was holding. Chloe peeked out. "Yes." "I have paper," Gabriel said awkwardly. "Somewhere. Matteo, get the kid some crayons." Matteo raised an eyebrow. "We don't have crayons, Gabriel. We have scotch and ammunition." "Then buy some," Gabriel snapped, standing up. "And get them clothes. Nothing pink. Something sturdy." He turned back to Amelia. "There are 3 guest bedrooms down the hall. Pick one. Stay away from the windows. Don't use the phone. If you need anything, ask Matteo." "And what are you going to do?" Amelia asked, her chin lifted defiantly. Gabriel walked toward his office, the heavy oak doors looming. He paused and looked back. His eyes were cold, void of the humanity he had shown for a split second in the diner. I'm going to find out which one of my friends wants me dead, he said. And then I'm going to return the favor. As the doors clicked shut, Amelia looked around the opulent cage she was trapped in. She was safe from the assassin, maybe, but she was locked in with the wolf. Later that night, the storm broke over Chicago. Rain lashed against the bulletproof glass. Gabriel sat in his office, staring at the security feed. He watched the hallway camera. Amelia had put Chloe to bed. She was pacing the corridor, hugging her arms around herself. He zoomed in on her face. She wasn't just scared. She was calculating. She was looking for exits. She reminded him of himself 10 years ago, cornered, desperate. A knock on the door. "Enter," Gabriel said. It was Matteo. He looked grim. "We found the driver," Matteo said. "Dead. 2 shots to the back of the head. And Cray? Vanished, but we found something else." Matteo slid a manila folder across the desk. "Background check on the girl. Amelia Bennett." Gabriel opened the folder. He scanned the document. His eyes stopped on a name in the middle of the page. "Well," Gabriel muttered. "This complicates things." "She's not just a waitress, Gabriel," Matteo said softly. "Look who her brother is." Gabriel stared at the photo attached to the file. Amelia Bennett, sister of Detective Lucas Bennett, the head of the Organized Crime Task Force, the man who had vowed to put Gabriel Stone in prison for life. Gabriel closed the folder. A bitter laugh escaped his lips. "The cop's sister saves the mob boss," Gabriel said. "Fate has a twisted sense of humor." "If Bennett finds out you have his sister and niece," Matteo warned, "he won't send a squad car. He'll send a SWAT team." "He won't find out," Gabriel said, standing up and walking to the window. He looked out at the city lights. "Because if he does, he'll realize that I'm the only thing standing between his family and a grave." The morning sun hit the floor-to-ceiling windows of the stone tower, turning the glass into a blinding sheet of gold. Gabriel hadn't slept. He had spent the night in the war room, reviewing security tapes, financial records, and phone logs. Someone had sold him out. The attempt at the diner wasn't a random hit. It was an assassination sanctioned by someone with intimate knowledge of his schedule. And that list was terrifyingly short. He walked into the kitchen, expecting silence. Instead, he found chaos. Chloe was sitting on the countertop, an island made of imported Italian marble worth more than most cars, kicking her legs. She was eating a bowl of cereal that definitely didn't come from his pantry. "We ordered groceries," Amelia said, not looking up from the stove where she was scrambling eggs. She was wearing one of his white dress shirts, the sleeves rolled up to her elbows. It hung on her frame like a dress, reaching her knees. It made Gabriel's mouth go dry for a second, a reaction he immediately suppressed. "Matteo ordered groceries," Gabriel corrected, leaning against the doorframe. "I don't keep Fruity Loops in the safe house." "Well, you do now," Amelia said, turning off the stove. She looked tired but less terrified than the night before. Survival instinct had kicked in. She plated the eggs and set them on the island next to Chloe. "Coffee?" Gabriel stared at her. "I kidnap you, technically, and you're making me coffee." "I'm making me coffee," Amelia retorted, pouring a black mug. "You just happen to be standing there, and unless you want me to pass out and become useless baggage, I suggest you let me have this." Gabriel took the mug she offered. It was black, bitter, and hot. Perfect. "Do you know who Cray works for?" Amelia asked, her voice lowering so Chloe wouldn't hear. The little girl was humming to herself, oblivious to the danger. "The Moretti family," Gabriel said. "Rivals from the South Side. But Moretti isn't smart enough to plant a man in Sal's on a Tuesday without help. He had an inside man." And you think it's one of your men? I think, Gabriel said, his eyes darkening, that loyalty is an expiring currency in this city. Suddenly the elevator chimed. Amelia stiffened, grabbing a steak knife from the counter. Gabriel was faster, his hand instantly on the gun tucked into his waistband. He moved in front of Amelia and Chloe, shielding them with his body. The doors slid open. It was Matteo, followed by 2 large security guards, dragging a man between them. The man was beaten, his face swollen, zip ties cutting into his wrists. It was Benny, the cook from the diner. Found him trying to board a bus to St. Louis, Matteo said, throwing Benny onto the marble floor. Chloe gasped. Amelia rushed to cover her daughter's eyes. Take her to the bedroom, Gabriel commanded, his voice devoid of the softness he had shown earlier. Now. Amelia didn't argue. She scooped up Chloe and ran down the hall. Gabriel turned his attention to the cook. He walked over slowly, his footsteps echoing in the large room. He crouched down. Benny, Gabriel said softly, I tipped you 20% for 10 years, and you let a man poison my soup. I didn't have a choice, Benny wept, blood bubbling on his lip. They took my dog, Mr. Stone. They said they'd kill Buster if I didn't look the other way. Who is they? Gabriel asked. He pulled his gun, not pointing it, just letting the weight of it rest in his hand. I don't know his name, Benny stammered. Big guy, fancy suit, smelled like peppermint and cigars. He gave the signal to the guy with the snake tattoo. Gabriel's eyes snapped to Matteo. Peppermint and cigars. There was only one man in Gabriel's inner circle who smoked customized cigars dipped in peppermint oil. Silas Thorne, his treasurer, the man who handled the money, the man who had been complaining about the peace treaty with the Eastern Syndicate. Gabriel stood up. Get him out of here, he told the guards. Put him on a train. If he ever comes back to Chicago, kill him. You're letting him go? Matteo asked, surprised. He's a pawn, Gabriel said. I want the king. As the guards dragged the weeping cook away, Gabriel felt a presence behind him. He turned. Amelia was standing at the end of the hallway. She had heard everything. Silas, she whispered. Is that the traitor? Go back to your room, Amelia, Gabriel warned. My brother smokes those cigars, she said, stepping forward. Her face was pale. But he hates peppermint, so I know it's not him. We need to talk about your brother, Gabriel said, holstering his weapon. He walked over to the bar and poured himself a drink, despite it being 9:12 a.m. Detective Lucas Bennett, the man leading the crusade against my organization. He's a good man, Amelia defended, crossing her arms. He thinks he's saving the city. He's going to get you killed, Gabriel said bluntly. When he finds out you're missing, he's going to tear this city apart. He'll put pressure on the Morettis, on the streets. And when the pressure gets too high, Silas will panic. He'll try to finish the job he started at the diner. And since you're the only witness, he'll come for me, Amelia finished. He'll come for us, Gabriel corrected. He took a step closer to her. The distance between them closed. He could smell her shampoo, vanilla, and rain. It was intoxicating. Which means, Amelia, that until I deal with Silas, you and I are tied together. You are under my protection, and in my world, that means you belong to me. Amelia's breath hitched. I don't belong to anyone. Gabriel reached out, his rough thumb grazing her jawline. It was a possessive gesture, startling them both. You shouted at a loaded gun to save my life. You claimed your stake. Now deal with the consequences. Before Amelia could respond, before the tension could snap into something else, Matteo interrupted from the living room. Gabriel, turn on the TV. Channel 5. Gabriel pulled away, his face masking the confusion he felt at his own actions. He walked to the living room and grabbed the remote. On the screen, a press conference was taking place. A man in a sharp blue suit stood behind a podium, microphones shoved in his face. He had the same jawline as Amelia, the same fierce eyes. Detective Lucas Bennett. "We have reason to believe," Lucas was saying to the cameras, his voice shaking with suppressed rage, "that Gabriel Stone has kidnapped a civilian woman and her child from a diner in the West Loop yesterday. This is no longer an investigation. This is a manhunt. Stone, if you are watching this, if you hurt them, there is no hole deep enough for you to hide in." Gabriel muted the TV. He looked at Amelia. "He thinks I took you," Gabriel said. "He doesn't know about the poison," Amelia realized. "He just knows I disappeared with you." "Silas," Gabriel realized, his mind working fast. "Silas must have tipped off the police anonymously. He framed me for kidnapping. He wants the cops to take me out so he doesn't have to." Gabriel grabbed his jacket. "Matteo, lock down the elevators. No one in or out. Initiate the ghost protocol." "What are you doing?" Amelia asked, panic rising again. "I'm going to have a chat with your brother," Gabriel said, checking the magazine of his gun, "before he kicks down my front door with a SWAT team." The meeting was arranged in the only place Gabriel knew wasn't bugged, an abandoned textile factory in the industrial district. The rain was coming down in sheets, drumming against the rusted tin roof like gunfire. Gabriel stood in the center of the warehouse floor. He was alone, or so it seemed. In the shadows of the rafters, 4 of his best snipers were positioned, thermal scopes trained on the entrance. The heavy metal doors groaned open. Detective Lucas Bennett walked in. He was soaking wet, his trench coat heavy with rain. He held a service pistol in his hand, his finger resting on the trigger guard. "Where are they?" Lucas shouted, his voice echoing in the vast, empty space. "Where is my sister?" "She's safe," Gabriel said, his voice calm, projecting effortlessly. Safe from the men trying to kill her, which, coincidentally, isn't me. "Bullshit!" Lucas raised the gun, aiming it squarely at Gabriel's chest. "Witnesses saw you drag her into your car. They saw you shooting." "They saw me shooting at the men trying to put a bullet in her daughter," Gabriel countered. He took a slow step forward. "Put the gun down, detective. If I wanted you dead, you wouldn't have made it through the door." "I don't care about your threats," Lucas spat. "I want Amelia. Give her to me, and I walk away. Keep her, and I burn your whole kingdom down." "If I give her to you," Gabriel said, "she dies. You have a leak, Bennett." Lucas froze. "What?" "The hit on me was at Sal's diner," Gabriel explained. "Only 3 people knew I was going there. My second, my treasurer, and my driver. The hit squad was Cray, Moretti's man. So, Gabriel continued. My treasurer, Silas Thorne, set it up. But Silas is smart. He knows he can't kill me without starting a war he can't win. Unless..." Gabriel paused. "Unless he has the police on his side to clean up the mess." Gabriel pulled a phone from his pocket. He dialed a number and put it on speaker. "Speak," Gabriel commanded. Amelia's voice filled the warehouse, trembling but clear. "Lucas? Lucas, are you there?" Lucas's face crumbled. "Amelia? Amy? Are you okay? Did he hurt you?" "No," Amelia said. He saved us, Luke. Chloe is fine. She's eating pizza and watching cartoons. Please listen to him. There was a man in the kitchen with poison. Gabriel got us out." Gabriel hung up the phone before Lucas could ask where they were. "She's alive," Gabriel said. "For now. But Silas knows she saw the killer. If you take her into police custody, Silas will know. He has friends in your department, doesn't he? Someone who signs off on evidence. Someone who tips off raids." Lucas lowered his gun slowly. He looked sick. Lieutenant Miller. He pushed for the press conference. He leaked your name to the media. Miller and Silas. Gabriel nodded. They're working together. Silas takes over my empire, Miller gets the credit for taking down Stone, and they split the profits. Lucas holstered his gun. He looked at Gabriel with a mixture of hatred and reluctant necessity. So what's the play? You keep hunting me, Gabriel said. Make it look real. Keep the heat on. I need Silas to think his plan is working. Meanwhile, I'm going to hunt him. And Amelia? She stays with me, Gabriel said. Inside the tower. It's the only place I can guarantee her safety. If a single hair on her head is harmed, Lucas warned, stepping closer until he was nose to nose with the mob boss. If she gets hurt, Gabriel said, his voice dropping to a lethal whisper, I won't need you to kill me. I'll do it myself. The admission hung in the air. Lucas searched Gabriel's eyes, looking for the lie, but found only a steely, terrifying resolve. Make it look real, Lucas repeated. He turned and walked away. At the door, he stopped. Stone? Yeah? She likes her coffee with cinnamon, and Chloe sleeps with a nightlight. If you screw that up, I'm coming back with a tank. Lucas disappeared into the rain. Gabriel let out a breath he didn't realize he was holding. He signaled the snipers to stand down. He returned to the car where Matteo was waiting. How did it go? Matteo asked. Better than expected, Gabriel said. We have a truce. But as they drove back toward the city, the radio crackled. Boss! It was the security chief at the tower. We have a problem. What? Gabriel snapped. The power just got cut. The whole building is dark, and the backup generators aren't kicking in. Gabriel's blood ran cold. The stone tower was designed to survive a blackout. If the generators were down, it wasn't an accident. It was sabotage. Where is Amelia? Gabriel shouted into the radio. We can't find her, boss. The electronic locks on the guest suite disengaged when the power died. She's not in the room. Gabriel slammed his fist against the dashboard. Step on it. Back at the penthouse, the world was pitch black. Amelia held Chloe's hand, pressing her back against the cold wall of the hallway. The emergency lights hadn't come on. It was total darkness. Mummy, I'm scared, Chloe whispered, clutching her stuffed bear. Shh, baby, it's okay. It's just a game, Amelia lied, her heart hammering against her ribs like a trapped bird. She had heard footsteps, heavy, wet boots on the marble floor, not the rhythmic patrol of the guards. These were chaotic, searching steps. She's on this floor somewhere, a voice hissed. A voice Amelia recognized. It was the man from the diner, the man with the snake tattoo, Victor Cray. Find the girl, another voice said. A smoother, deeper voice. Kill the mother, but keep the girl. We need leverage if Stone survives the ambush. Amelia clamped a hand over Chloe's mouth to stop her whimper. They were hunting them. Inside the penthouse. She needed a weapon. She needed an exit. But they were on the 50th floor. She remembered what Gabriel had said. Stay away from the windows. But the windows were the only way out. Amelia dragged Chloe toward the master bedroom, Gabriel's room. She knew he had a panic room. Matteo had mentioned it. She just had to find it in the dark. She pushed the heavy oak door open and slipped inside, locking it quietly. Here, Kitty. Kitty. Cray's voice came from right outside the door. He jiggled the handle. Then, a heavy thud as he kicked it. The wood splintered. Amelia scrambled backward, pulling Chloe into the large walk-in closet. She felt around blindly for a latch, a button, anything. Her hand brushed against a row of suits. Crash. The bedroom door flew open. A flashlight beam sliced through the darkness, sweeping the room. I know you're in here, Amelia, Cray taunted. Come out, let's make this quick. Amelia found it, a small keypad hidden behind a panel in the wall of the closet, but she didn't know the code. "Damn it," she whispered. She looked down at Chloe. The girl was trembling violently. "Chloe," Amelia whispered, gripping the girl's shoulders. "You need to be brave. When I say run, you run under the bed and you don't come out. Do you hear me? No, Mummy. Do it!" The closet door was ripped open. Amelia didn't run. She screamed, a primal, terrifying sound, and lunged at the shadow in the doorway, swinging a heavy brass lamp she had grabbed from the nightstand. It connected. Craig grunted, staggering back as the lamp smashed into his face. Amelia tried to run past him, but a hand shot out, grabbing her hair. She was yanked back, thrown hard onto the floor. Craig stood over her, blood dripping from his nose, his snake tattoo rippling as he sneered. He pointed a gun at her head. "You have a lot of fight for a waitress," he spat. He cocked the hammer. Amelia closed her eyes. "Gabriel, where are you?" Blam! The gunshot was deafening in the enclosed space. Amelia flinched, waiting for the pain, but it never came. Something heavy hit the floor next to her. She opened her eyes. Cray was lying on the carpet, a hole in the center of his forehead. Standing on the balcony, framed by the stormy sky, was Gabriel Stone. He had climbed the exterior maintenance ladder, 50 floors up, in the rain. He was soaking wet, his chest heaving, his gun smoking in his hand. He looked like a demon rising from hell. He stepped over the body and dropped to his knees beside her. He didn't say a word. He just pulled her into his chest, burying his face in her neck. He was shaking. "I told you," he whispered into her hair, his voice raw. "I told you I'd come back." For the first time, Amelia didn't pull away. She grabbed the lapels of his wet jacket and held on for dear life. The silence that followed the gunshot was heavier than the storm outside. The penthouse was still plunged in darkness, save for the occasional flash of lightning that illuminated the body of Victor Cray on the carpet and the two trembling figures on the floor. Gabriel Stone, the man who made mayors stutter and rivals disappear, was on his knees, holding Amelia Bennett as if she were made of fragile glass. His breathing was ragged, a harsh sound in the quiet room. He wasn't looking at the dead hitman. He was scanning Amelia's face, his large hands cupping her cheeks, his thumbs brushing away the tears that mixed with the rain dripping from his hair. "Did he touch you?" Gabriel demanded, his voice a low, dangerous rumble. "Amelia, look at me. Did he hurt you?" I hit him with the lamp," Amelia stammered, the adrenaline beginning to crash, leaving her shaking violently. "He was going to shoot. He found the closet." "He's dead," Gabriel said firmly, locking eyes with her. "He can't hurt you. He can never hurt you again." From under the bed, a small sob broke the trance. Gabriel stiffened. He pulled away from Amelia slightly and looked toward the darkness beneath the king-sized mattress. "Chloe, is the bad man gone?" a tiny, muffled voice asked. Gabriel didn't stand up. He crawled, ignoring the dignity of his station, until he was lying on his stomach near the edge of the bed. "He's gone, little one. I sent him away." Chloe peeked out. Her eyes were wide, reflecting the lightning. She looked at Gabriel, wet, bruised, with a gun in his hand, and then she scrambled out, bypassing her mother to throw her arms around the Mafia Don's neck. Gabriel froze. He had killed men with his bare hands. He had negotiated multi-million-dollar deals while sipping espresso, but he had no idea what to do with a crying 5-year-old clinging to his soaking wet jacket. Slowly, hesitantly, his hand came up to pat her back. "It's okay," he murmured, his voice softening to a tone Matteo had never heard in 40 years. "I've got you." The lights suddenly flickered and buzzed back to life. The backup generators had finally been manually overridden by Matteo's team. The sudden brightness revealed the carnage. The shattered door, the overturned furniture, the blood. "Matteo!" Gabriel roared, standing up and lifting Chloe with him, shielding her face from the body on the floor. Matteo burst into the room, followed by 4 guards. They took in the scene instantly. Matteo's eyes went to Crae's body, then to Gabriel. "Get the cleaning crew," Gabriel ordered, his voice returning to cold steel. "Get the body out, replace the carpet, fix the door. I want this room spotless in an hour." He turned to Amelia. "Take the guest room down the hall, the secure one. Guards will be posted inside and out." "Where are you going?" Amelia asked, standing up on shaky legs. She reached out, her fingers grazing his wet sleeve. "I have a meeting to arrange," Gabriel said, looking at the phone he had pulled from Crae's pocket. "Silas just texted him. He wants to know if the job is done." "What are you going to tell him?" Gabriel's eyes were dark voids of fury. "I'm going to tell him, yes." An hour later, the atmosphere in the stone tower had shifted from chaotic defense to cold, calculated offense. Amelia had put Chloe back to sleep in the secondary guest suite, sitting with her until the child's breathing evened out. When she walked into the living room, she found an unlikely war council. Gabriel had changed into a dry suit, charcoal grey, impeccable. He sat in a leather armchair. Opposite him sat her brother, Detective Lucas Bennett. The 2 men, mortal enemies by law and nature, were sharing a bottle of bourbon. "You look like hell, Luke," Amelia said, walking into the room. Lucas stood up and crushed her in a hug. He smelled of rain and cheap precinct coffee. "I should arrest you for obstruction of justice," he whispered into her hair, his voice thick with emotion. "But I'm just glad you're breathing." He pulled back and looked at her. He kept his word. "You're safe." "He climbed 50 stories in a storm," Amelia said, looking at Gabriel. Gabriel poured another drink, ignoring the praise. "Silas thinks Crae succeeded. He thinks Amelia and Chloe are dead, and that I'm currently mourning, or worse, that Crae took me out too." "I traced the text from Crae's phone," Lucas said, switching into cop mode. "It came from a burner, but the signal pinged off a tower near the River North district. That's where Silas lives." "He's not at home," Gabriel corrected. "He's at the Gilded Cage. It's a club we use for sensitive transactions. He's waiting for confirmation so he can call a meeting of the capos and declare himself the new head of the family." "So we go in," Lucas said. "I have a TAC team on standby. We raid the club." "No," Gabriel shook his head. "If you raid the club, Silas lawyers up. He claims he was just having a drink. You find nothing. The charges won't stick, and he walks free in 24 hours to put another hit on Amelia." "Then what's the play?" Lucas asked, frustrated. "We need him to confess," Gabriel said. "We need him to admit he ordered the hit. We need him to admit he's working with Lieutenant Miller." "Miller is with him," Lucas confirmed. "I saw them leave the precinct together an hour ago." Gabriel stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the city he ruled. "We're going to give Silas exactly what he wants. He wants a dead boss? I'll give him a dead boss." He turned back to them. "We are going to stage my wake." Amelia frowned. "You want to play dead?" "I want Silas to feel comfortable," Gabriel said. "I want him to stand over my body and gloat. Men like Silas, they can't resist bragging when they think they've won. And when he admits to killing me and ordering the hit on the waitress, I'll be wearing a wire," Lucas finished, a grim smile spreading across his face. "Better," Gabriel said. "The whole room will be wired, and you won't be outside, Bennett. You'll be inside." "As what?" "As the dirty cop who helped make it happen," Gabriel said. "You're going to walk in there and demand your cut." Lucas hesitated. It was dangerous. If Silas suspected for a second that Lucas wasn't dirty, they would both be dead. "I can do it," Lucas said. "For Amelia." "Good," Gabriel said. He turned to Amelia. "You stay here. Matteo has the perimeter locked down." "No," Amelia said instantly. "Amelia," Gabriel warned. "I'm the reason this started," she said, her voice steady. "I shouted at you in the diner. I identified Cray. If you're going to end this, I want to see it. It's too dangerous." "I'll stay in the surveillance van with Matteo," Amelia negotiated. "I won't go in the room. But I need to see him go down, Gabriel. I need to know it's over." Gabriel looked at her. He saw the fire in her eyes, the same fire that had intrigued him at the diner. She wasn't a victim. She was a survivor. "Fine," Gabriel conceded, "but you stay with Matteo. If you step 1 foot out of that van, I will lock you in the tower for a month." Amelia smirked, a hint of her old self returning. "You can try." The gilded cage was empty of customers. It was 3 a.m. The club smelled of stale champagne and expensive perfume. In the center of the VIP lounge, a body lay on a long velvet sofa. It was covered by a white sheet. Silas Thorne stood by the bar, swirling a glass of cognac. He was a man of expensive tastes, silk suit, manicured nails, and the scent of peppermint and cigars clinging to him. Next to him stood Lieutenant Miller, a sweaty, nervous man in a rumpled suit. "Are you sure he's dead?" Miller asked, wiping his forehead. "We haven't heard from Cray." "Cray is a professional," Silas said smoothly. "And look." He gestured to the body on the sofa. Gabriel Stone, the Lion of Chicago, reduced to a lump under a sheet. It's poetic, really. The back door opened. Silas's hand went to his jacket, but he relaxed when he saw who it was. Detective Lucas Bennett walked in. He looked disheveled, angry, and desperate. "Bennett!" Miller gasped. "What are you doing here?" "I want my money," Lucas snarled, walking up to the bar. "I know what you two did. You used my sister as bait to kill Stone. Now she's missing. Stone is dead, and I want to know why I shouldn't burn you both." Silas chuckled. He poured another glass. "Detective Bennett, I assumed you'd be grieving, but I suppose every man has his price, even the righteous ones." "My price is high," Lucas lied, his heart hammering against his ribs. The wire taped to his chest felt like it was burning a hole in his skin. "Relax, detective," Silas said, walking toward the covered body. "Your sister was collateral damage. A tragedy, sure, but necessary. Stone was weak. He was getting soft, eating soup in diners, letting civilians talk back to him. He needed to go." "So you ordered Cray to kill the girl too?" Lucas asked, pushing for the confession. "I ordered Cray to clean the slate," Silas said, standing over the body. "No witnesses. The little girl, the mother, they were loose ends. It's just business, Bennett. You understand business." In the surveillance van parked down the street, Amelia listened to the audio feed, her hand gripping Matteo's arm. "He admitted it," she whispered. "He admitted to ordering the hit on Chloe." "Wait," Matteo said, watching the monitors. "Wait for the signal." Inside the club, Silas reached out and pulled back the sheet. He expected to see Gabriel Stone's lifeless face, perhaps a bullet hole in the chest. Instead, he saw a mannequin. Silas froze. The glass of cognac slipped from his hand and shattered on the floor. "What the? Looking for me, Silas?" The voice came from the shadows of the DJ booth, high above the dance floor. Spotlights suddenly slammed on, blinding Silas and Miller. Gabriel Stone stood on the balcony, flanked by 4 armed guards. He wasn't dead. He wasn't even injured. He looked like a king passing judgment. "Gabriel," Silas stammered, backing away. This is a misunderstanding. I was just..." You were just confessing to the murder of a woman and a child, Gabriel said, his voice amplified by the club's sound system, and conspiring with a police lieutenant to assassinate your Don. It's a trap, Miller screamed, pulling his service weapon. Don't! Lucas yelled, drawing his own gun and jamming the barrel into Miller's neck. Drop it, Miller. You're done! Miller froze, the cold reality washing over him. He dropped his gun. Lucas kicked it away and slapped handcuffs on his superior officer. Lieutenant Miller, you have the right to remain silent. Silas, however, wasn't done. He looked at the balcony, panic turning into cornered rat desperation. You can't touch me, Gabriel, Silas shouted. I have the accounts. I have the offshore keys. If you kill me, the money vanishes. The family goes broke. Gabriel descended the stairs slowly, step by step. The sound of his dress shoes on the metal stairs was a ticking clock. You think I care about the money? Gabriel asked softly. He reached the bottom of the stairs and walked toward Silas. Silas scrambled back, pulling a small derringer from his sleeve. Bang! The shot went wild, hitting a mirror. Gabriel didn't flinch. He didn't even slow down. He closed the distance in 2 strides, grabbed Silas's wrist, and twisted. Crack! Silas screamed as his wrist broke. The gun clattered to the floor. Gabriel grabbed Silas by the throat and lifted him off his feet, slamming him against the bar. Bottles toppled and crashed. You tried to kill a 5-year-old girl, Gabriel hissed, his face inches from Silas's. You brought a traitor into my house. You threatened what is mine. I can fix this, Silas choked out, his face turning purple. I can make you rich, richer than God. Gabriel leaned in close, whispering so only Silas could hear. I'm already rich. I have something you never will. Loyalty. Gabriel released him. Silas crumpled to the floor, gasping for air. Matteo, Gabriel said calmly. Matteo entered from the front door. Boss? Detective Bennett is taking the lieutenant into custody, Gabriel said. But Mr. Thorne has violated the laws of our organization. The police have no jurisdiction over him. Lucas looked at Gabriel. He had what he needed. The confession for the attempt on Amelia and the corruption of Miller. He could arrest Silas, but he knew the justice system. Lawyers, bail, deals. Lucas looked down at Silas, then at Gabriel. I didn't see anything, Lucas said, turning his back and dragging Miller toward the exit. Come on, Miller. Let's go. Bennett, you can't leave me here, Silas screamed. The heavy doors slammed shut, sealing Silas in with his judgment. Gabriel adjusted his cufflinks. He looked down at the man who had been his brother-in-arms for 10 years. You like peppermint cigars, Silas? Gabriel asked. Gabriel, please. Matteo, Gabriel said, turning to walk away. Give him a light. 6 months later. The Sunday afternoon sun was warm in the garden of the stone estate. The high walls were covered in ivy, and the security cameras were discreetly hidden in birdhouses. A large table was set on the patio. It was laden with food, pasta, roasted meats, salads, and freshly baked bread. Amelia walked out of the kitchen, carrying a large platter of grilled vegetables. She wasn't wearing a uniform anymore. She wore a sundress that caught the breeze, and she looked rested, happy, and radiant. Chloe, get down from there, she called out, laughing. Chloe was currently sitting on the shoulders of Matteo, who was pretending to be a horse, trotting around the rose bushes. The fearsome consigliere was making neighing sounds. Gabriel sat at the head of the table. He was watching them. He wasn't wearing a tie. His top button was undone. He looked younger. The gate buzzer rang. A guard opened the side gate, and Lucas Bennett walked in. He was carrying a 6-pack of beer and a toy set. Uncle Luke, Chloe shrieked, sliding off Matteo and sprinting toward him. Hey, Munchkin! Lucas swung her up in the air. He walked over to the table and nodded at Gabriel. Stone, Lucas said. "Bennett," Gabriel replied. "You're late." "Traffic," Lucas shrugged, sitting down, "and I had to file paperwork on the Miller conviction. 20 years. He's crying like a baby." "Good," Gabriel said, pouring him a glass of wine. Amelia sat down next to Gabriel. He instinctively reached out, his hand resting on the back of her chair, his fingers brushing her shoulder. It was a claiming gesture, but also a tender one. "So," Amelia said, passing the bread. "No work talk at the table. Those are the rules." "Agreed," Lucas said. He looked at the spread. "This looks amazing. Did Benny cook this?" "Benny is retired in Florida," Gabriel said. "I have a new chef. He used to work at a 3-star Michelin place in Paris." Lucas reached for a bowl of green soup. "What is this? Spinach?" "Asparagus mousse with truffle oil," Gabriel said. Lucas lifted the spoon. Suddenly, Chloe slammed her hand on the table. "Don't eat that!" she shouted. Every adult at the table froze. Gabriel's hand went instantly to his waistband, his eyes snapping to the perimeter. Lucas dropped the spoon, reaching for his ankle holster. Amelia grabbed a steak knife. Silence reigned for 3 terrifying seconds. Then, Chloe pointed at the bowl. "It has broccoli in it," she declared with disgust. "It's yucky." The tension snapped. Lucas burst out laughing, nearly choking on his drink. Amelia covered her face, her shoulders shaking with mirth. Even Matteo, standing by the grill, cracked a smile. Gabriel Stone, the most feared man in Chicago, looked at the little girl who had once saved his life with those exact words. He slowly relaxed, a genuine smile reaching his eyes. He leaned over and kissed Amelia on the temple. "She's right," Gabriel said, looking at the detective. "It is yucky. But eat it anyway, Bennett. It's good for you." As laughter filled the garden, Gabriel leaned back. He had his empire, he had his peace, and most importantly, he had the 2 people who were brave enough to tell him the truth. He took a sip of his wine. The soup was safe. The life was good. And that is the story of how a little girl's scream changed the fate of the entire Chicago underworld. From a poisoned bowl of soup to a love story born in the middle of a Mafia war, Gabriel and Amelia proved that sometimes family isn't who you're born with, but who you're willing to die for. If you enjoyed this story of danger, romance, and karma, please hit that like button. It really helps the channel grow. Don't forget to subscribe and ring the notification bell so you never miss a new story. What did you think of Chloe's brave moment? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.